serving you a dose of wisdom and humor with a dash of radiance. Welcome to Biscuits and Sunshine with your hosts, Callie and Landra.
Hey y'all, pull up a seat at our table for your next serving of Biscuits and Sunshine. I'm Callie.
And I'm Landra. It makes me hella happy to have you here with us. We're recording this from Distance 4 Audio Studios in Athens, Greece. Welcome to episode 18, Deka Octo. Pame, let's go.
I'm just so proud of us every time you say the number of episodes that we've been able to accomplish. It's a really great feeling. It makes me so excited. I feel so accomplished. I feel so creative. I feel so ready for the future. I don't know why I feel that way, but I do. It makes me feel really good.
When you said that, I was like, ooh, momentum.
Yes.
Right? And especially when we sit down and we look at our planning and I'm like, oh my gosh, the year is almost over and look how far we've come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good feeling. I'm very proud of us.
Me too.
Go us. Pat on the back.
Whoop, whoop. And I was just going to say, thank you everyone who's following along with us on our journey and the feedback we get and just the conversations you all tell me that you're having with other friends. It really makes me it reminds me of why we started to do this in the first place, but it just really warms my heart. It's so much more than just about me or about us. I think it's just what it's putting out into the world.
Our goal is to create community. And we started doing this from a place of community for ourselves.
Yes.
And we're very intentional about growth. We don't want to force anything. We have all these conversations about goals and dreams. And it makes me just excited for our future together in this adventure, but also for my own future. Getting towards the end of the year, my favorite time of year, I just have so much hope. I have so many things I want to accomplish and experiences I want to have. But sometimes I think, too, I over-index in the future focus, and it does give me a little bit of anxiety. I start to think, am I where I need to be? Have I accomplished the things? Am I making the right decisions? Am I choosing the right things for my life? And I start to get a little iffy, maybe, if what I think I should be doing doesn't actually line up maybe with what my life looks like. It's a constant struggle.
Yeah, that word should. Ooh, it's so insidious.
I know, you should take it out.
And it's interesting. I feel like that's just a word now for me. I've started to notice when I should on myself, I say, you should. It literally is do the opposite.
Yeah.
Or stop and reevaluate. There's some pushing energy there. I had a mentor one time tell me one thing that would benefit me is shutting the door on false expectations. Things that I put on myself that actually is but should you though? You know what I mean? So it's that piece of where is this energy coming from? Is it something like you were saying, kind of like a measure against somebody else's expectations or maybe at one time it's going to be beneficial, but is it for right now?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Sometimes when I can't rein this feeling in fast enough, I sort of start to question all the decisions I've made in life. And it gives me this feeling of being untethered in a way. I sometimes, especially now, given the fact that we sort of moved around the world and I'm living a life very much outside mainstream, do I feel a little aimless? And when I stop to think, I know the answer is no, but I still very much struggle with sort of the external expectation and measurement of life. And this feeling of, I get this cyclically, right? I get this feeling of untetheredness when maybe I'm facing difficulty or unmet expectation in multiple areas of my life.
And it's interesting because the other day we always talk about our signs, being Aquarius and being air signs, that feeling if you don't have things that you're really attaching to, like a specific goal, if there's just too much space, how that can feel unsettling, like you said, like a bit of anxiousness.
Yeah, like a ship that is without anchor. I could just float forever. No, I know that's not the case, but the anxiety tells me, where are you going? Where will this end? What will this be?
Yeah. No, I get that. They say that depression can come up when we are living too much in the past. And then the anxiety comes from too much of future orientation. And it's so funny because I think, where I live would be more in the anxious than the backward facing.
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
say me too. Except if there are, like, inciting incidents, breakups, things like that, I sort of be very, like, sort of past focused, but for the most part, I think I am present and future oriented. Hopefully. I try. I should be. Ooh, sorry. I shoulded myself. I read this thing once that said, when I feel this way and I get sort of anxiously minded, I do start to question maybe, ooh, should I have moved to Greece at all? Like, should I have taken myself out of this traditional lifestyle? That should keeps coming up.
Yeah.
I read this thing once that keeps me very grounded. Don't dig up in fear what you've planted in faith.
Ooh. Mm.
When I made the decision to move to Greece, I knew it was right. So now that I'm facing uncertainty in a few things, in a few aspects, I cannot go back and question that decision. I can reimagine my life if I feel like moving somewhere else is the next step, but I can't question. Questioning the decision that's already happened won't net me any results.
Mm.
I have to learn and move on. Again, we go back to the planting metaphor, right? Don't dig up in fear what you've planted in faith. I don't know. Maybe it's something about
So
how we live our
interesting.
lives.
Yeah, right. We talk about growth so often, right? Well, growth is like, anything that gets planted and
Grounding,
yeah.
nature.
And then the other thing, now that we are going to talk planting metaphor, I'm thinking of like some of my plants, a bougainvillea plant I've really been trying to cultivate. Not a lot of flowers are coming, or they have and then they've fallen away. And then now it's just more green. And it's been going through all these funky phases throughout summer into now. And what's interesting is how I'm reading about them and what they love is they loved actually their bougainvillea are actually a weed. I was
Hmm.
shocked to learn. They love to be cut
Mhm.
every once in a while to then it will bloom a little bit more. So I'm in this phase of like looking to see what seems like it's not growing anymore, what I can cut back. And now we'll see what's going to happen. But I think there is something to be said about, what do we need to maybe practices or ways of being or ways of thinking that we need to snip.
I was gonna ask, are you talking about bougainvillea or your own life?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So looking at the bougainvillea and just being with nature, with plants,
Yeah.
questioning my own life.
There's so much wisdom in nature. There's so
There
many
really
things to
is.
learn.
And, I think it's really interesting in some of the nervous system work that I've done with learning about it. And this woman that I have done some training with, she talks about, it's nice and great, of course, to take care of plants because it's a way to kind of, again, being in tune with things. And also looking at your plants as a way to kind of see how regulated are you in your nervous system. The plants are actually a good reflection of that because they also
Oh,
absorb our own energy, right, within our
yeah.
space. But then also there's a bit of like, are they getting care? Are we taking care of ourselves and are we taking care of the things around us? So
Yeah.
that I thought was really interesting.
I just had a conversation with another friend of ours about pets being a reflection of, like, our own personality
Hmm.
and anxieties and depression. Like, pets are a reflection of that, of their owners. It's very interesting how much the natural world teaches us
Yeah.
when we stop to listen.
Yeah. Stop to observe and yeah, wonder. Oh man, yeah, girl. When you're talking about the future, I've always been, I've talked about this in previous episodes, a dreamer and like setting, having visions of, where I want to go in X amount of years. And what's really been interesting to me when I think about being untethered, I've always loved that like adventure and like what's possible. And now it's like I'm living into this vision that I had of 10 years for my life, and it's even some places have even exceeded my expectations, but I'm really in this place of like, what next?
Hmm.
Like what's giving me anxiety is that I'm not clear. I don't see this next big picture or this idea. So, and I'm also wondering though if I've been really enjoying and needing this time to root a little bit, going back kind of the metaphor to kind of ground and to feel a sense of community, safeness, connection before I can then open up the space in my mind to think about what's next. Because yeah, when somebody has asked me, what's your goals in the next 5 years? I'm like, I don't know. And that used to not be me a few years ago.
Since you've been experiencing this season of rootedness, what are some of the things that make you feel grounded?
Time with my friends reminding me of what really matters most. I get filled up so much by connection. And also, I would say it's not just my friends that I've cultivated for a while, but actually, I've had some great meetings with some new friends. So, just being a relationship, I guess, is a great way to feel that connection. And I'm a big community person. So, returning to places in my neighborhood and around the city that are familiar, that also provides me a good sense of feeling rooted. Routines, when I actually do them. So I can get sidetracked. What about for you?
I struggle sometimes with the idea of rootedness. Maybe it's the air in my sign. Maybe it's feeling like I never fit the container I was in. The idea of being rooted someplace sort of makes me feel a little constricted. Grounding, like the practice of grounding, I love. I love getting my feet in the grass. I like connecting with nature as long as it's not on a hike. But I don't know, the connotation of being rooted somewhere is one that I have sort of difficulty navigating.
That's interesting that you say that about as an air sign, and some of that really resonates with me too. It's funny how what I'm realizing is I like so much orientation about being out in the world. And it's like this don't tie me down to any one thing. And yet, how much that is like a mental construct. And it's interesting, I see that in 2 areas. I see that, like, from whether thinking about whether or not in the past do I wanna be married, and then also about do I wanna be a homeowner. Thinking that those things really just, like, locked you in. Isn't that funny? But yet, what I'm realizing, because I did decide to be married, I am a homeowner now, is that these things, a sense of stability and safety, for me, actually, I when I have those things, I could actually then confidently be more out in the world. And so that's just so funny how the paradox sometimes these things come into our minds.
It's almost like we have allowed how other people relate to responsibility. We've allowed that to dictate how we ourselves do as well.
That's right, that's right. Actually, that reminds me, in the workplace, a mentor had asked me, "Why are you not, like, at the director level?" And I'm like, "I don't wanna be a director. I see all the responsibility. I see people are, like, way out of balance." It's just like, but that's what you've been seeing. You are able to change it and make it whatever you want it to be. And I
Hmm,
was like, "Oh, never thought about it that way."
a valuable piece of advice. I think that goes back to the idea of living authentically and not allowing other people's opinions to dictate how I feel. It can inform what I decide, but it doesn't dictate what I do.
Yeah, and it's kinda like that shoulding, like that comparison.
Don't shoot yourself. It's another t-shirt idea. We're gonna have all the swag. I'm interested that you said earlier, like the you from 10 years ago would be shocked that you don't have a plan after this phase where you are now. I've never been a person that could conceptualize based on a plan. Like I had big ideas, but never put them into a trajectory. And so I'm curious, in this moment, the you now, how does that feel to not have that moving forward?
Uncomfortable, and when you said earlier about you spoke about the boat that doesn't have the anchor down and it's just meandering or kind of floating through the water, I don't like that feeling. I like to have direction. I'm not, like, overly, I don't think, rigid, but yeah, it feels a little bit like, "Whoa."
It's the security you talked about.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
Being wanting life to be oriented around security, but not letting that security restrict what you do.
Yeah, and also, like, being inspired by something I'm working towards, like a goal
Yeah.
that feels like a bit of like, "Ooh, that's really, like, a big dream, but I think I can get there." So that excitement that, like, I don't have that. So that also feels like a little bit like, the other thing that's coming to mind is, like, seeing things as colorful and, like, just kinda drab
Mm,
in some way.
yeah. And so now is a drab outlook?
I mean, not like it's a sad, it just doesn't have color. It just like when I think of like visualizing, there's just not, um, yeah, that's interesting. It's just, it's not like a bright, I don't know, that's like maybe a metaphor for something. I don't know.
It's interesting because you guys can't see it, but I'm looking across the desk at Landra, and she's literally wearing like 6 colors right now. She's such a colorful person.
But I'm wearing black.
Yeah, but a layered on top of that. She's such a colorful person, both outwardly in expression and also personality-wise, that to have this sort of opportunity to articulate, well, right now, the palette I see life with is more monotone, a
Mhm.
little more monochromatic, not as bursting with color because I don't have the box to contain it. Maybe we're building a bigger box.
I know. There's something about, I notice this about myself. At times, I struggle to find words to feeling, and I think I'm in this phase now where I'm really feeling a lot, and it's kind of foreign. It's like this new, like we've spoken about this, like this new leveling up, I think that's like happening, and I've never experienced it before, and I do believe in my heart of hearts that I'm evolving and I'm going somewhere that's gonna really stretch me, and it's not only what I need, but it's what I wanna give to the world, and I just don't know what that is yet. So it's
Mm.
like something about trusting this foreign feelings, trusting this uncertainty, this untetheredness, and really embracing, I think, the discomfort that's coming up from a blind faith perspective. I've never been that person. And so I today am recognizing that in this conversation, and I am okay or learning to be okay and accepting, but it doesn't feel super comfortable.
We can honor the discomfort without allowing it to stick around forever.
Yeah, and I also think the other thing, my therapist and I have been talking a lot about acceptance. And I know this again from a mindfulness perspective is how we can learn to cultivate acceptance. Doesn't mean we have to like something, but it's still really hard.
One of the things you said as we were sort of discussing this topic is the idea of honoring all of life's experiences, whether that be good experience or bad experience, and how being able to do that creates new space, creates the opportunity to level up. I was listening to this talk by this neuroscientist this morning, and he said the only way we grow is through feeling and recognizing feeling. You can't think your way through something. You have to feel it. I was like, yeah, okay, let's do that.
And there's also the saying you have to feel it to heal it.
True.
Yeah.
And you have to name it to tame it.
Look at us.
What other cliches can we throw out?
But these are real ones that I'm really putting into practice.
Yeah.
And it is, and I think, the other day I had this aha moment where I'm like, oh my God, now I know why the uncomfortableness is being felt. And this is just my experience is like how sobering it is because I'm going through it sober. I'm not trying to numb. I don't mean that just from alcohol or drugs. I also mean that from we numb so much in our culture. We can, run from it and
With
hide.
work, with social media, with
Yeah.
all the things that distract us.
Distract us because I don't want to feel it. And how much I'm like, oh, I don't know why it just came to me where I was like, no wonder why this is hard and it hurts so much. But like you said, this is just where it's at today. It's like a temporary thing. But when you're in it, oof, it doesn't feel temporary.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. I think no matter what decisions you've made or what life you live, these questions always come up. And so when I have these moments of doubt where, ooh, maybe the move internationally wasn't the best choice, I think, wait, no, because I would probably be feeling this way in some respect, no matter where I was living,
Yeah.
no matter what lifestyle I had. So I feel like, okay, the decision to move was authentic to me. So it's not so much the decision that uprooted me from my life. It's the uncertainty that I'm experiencing, like you said. And when you're in it, it does not feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you mentioned earlier how anxiety is future focus and depression is past. maybe when you find yourself in those anxious moments, what are some of the things that you do to bring you back to the now and the present?
Working on being embodied, and I do that in several ways, literally coming back to the present moment, and it could be in the form of movement, so just any sort of like if it's like dance or just really anything I'm moving my body, like getting out my yoga mat and stretching in some way. Also, just stopping and orientating to what I see in the room. It's coming back to my body, essentially, is what is helping.
The things that you can sense,
Yes.
hear, see, maybe
Yes.
taste, smell, those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Reminding yourself that you exist right now, not
Yes.
in the tomorrow or not in the yesterday.
Right. Right. Exactly. So yeah, different embodiment practices.
And like what's one that you find yourself gravitating to more?
One of the ones I do, and I do teach that people really resonate with is 5 things, coming back to the senses. So you can just pick a color. What are 5 things that you see that are the color green in your environment and look around and name them? 4 things that you hear that are, again, currently in your environment, sound of my voice, other things going on. 3 things that you feel. That could be emotions. It could also be like tactile. 2 things that you smell, and then 1 thing that you taste.
I love that. Also, in some ways, like maybe a gratitude practice as well. I can see 5 red things. I can hear 4 natural sounds. I can touch, like physically, like I have the ability to feel 3 things that are underneath me. I can smell the cooking of something or the whatever, and I can I don't know, it's like almost reminds you that whatever's happening in your mind, if we're talking anxiety, whatever is happening up here isn't necessarily happening out there.
Right.
Oh, I love that.
I like that you say gratitude because it's like how lucky, again, taking something for granted or something so easy that
Yeah.
I actually have the ability to see.
Yeah.
I have the ability to taste. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's all these things, of course, that are just basic everyday parts of life, but that's really it. And that's why I think these practices are coming back to the here and the now. They're so simple, but yet so potent. And it just takes the time to remember to do it. It's one of those things you have to practice yourself to see the power because just telling you about it, sometimes people could say, well, that's really boring. I'm not even interested.
Yeah, sure, that works.
Right, right.
Until you try it and you're like, "Oh, crap, it does really work." It is something that helps me stay focused in the present moment.
Mhm.
I think this idea of being present has become really trendy. And in that, some people write it off as something that's not of value anymore. Because so many people are talking about, oh, like live in the present, be present, put your phone down, be in the present. But that's it. Like, that's the key. It's something very simple. You don't have to go on weeks long retreats. You don't have to travel the world. You don't have to. There are things you can do right now where you are with what you have to help combat this anxiousness that you feel, to bring you forward from past memories that bring you down. I don't know. It's like, it's embodiment, but it's also empowerment
Mhm. It's the
because you
way I
have
look at
it
it.
here.
Yeah. It's always all within you, but the commercial capitalistic world we live in want to sell you things. Like it's not enough just to sit down and meditate. You need to have the right clothing, a good shawl. What are you sitting on?
The subscription app.
Yeah. So it's all those things. So if you strip it away, but then that's also our minds can deceive us in that way. Maybe it's been trained that way or to be like, oh, I need these things before I can try this.
Yeah. These are great things. You tell me it, I hear it, I forget it, you remind me about it. That's why we joked earlier that these podcasts are just for us to work through the things that we're feeling in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I wanted to add on when you were saying about, the present, like it's easy just to do, it's not easy, but it's like just be here now. But that is like so like a little bit of like a revolution
Yes.
because everything isn't, whether it's grabbing your phone or as you walk out your front door, the amount of like advertisements and things you see as you're going, or people are trying to talk to you and get everything is trying to grab your attention. And you start to see how our attention is even beginning to be divided.
Mhm.
And we can only take small sound bites of information because we're overwhelmed.
Yeah. Oh, the neuroscientist that I was listening to
Yeah.
talked about how people are having a hard time falling in love because dopamine is that chemical in our brains that happens when we fall in love, when we connect in relationship. Because we are oversaturated in dopamine from digital stimulus, we are not finding the same comfort and connection when we're with someone face to face.
Mm.
Because we're seeking that additional extra high, which to me, you said, feeling rooted for you is relationship. I'm sure that's not unique to you. It works for me. I'm sure it works for thousands of millions of people. If we aren't finding the chemical connection in our brain to relationship,
Yeah.
how are we rooting ourselves to anything besides the device in our pocket? Wow.
Yeah, there's a ton of research being done, even like on big long-term meditators, monks even, right? And so it's wild to think that we actually have, as human beings, the capacity to change our brain and even like neuroplasticity and
Mm.
build new neural pathways just by simply paying attention. And it's just, whoa. And so again, I think it's just like the more you know, there's more empowerment there. That's what really got me into these practices was because I joke and I laugh because nobody really ever shows up and like, my life feels pretty good. I feel pretty amazing. Let me try and learn about meditation.
Yeah.
No, there's usually some sort of suffering or discomfort. And we're looking for tools and we're looking for solutions and things to help alleviate some of that. So I think it's kind of interesting. And then, going down that path of like experimenting, and that's why I love the teachings of like Buddhism talk about, this isn't a practice that is like going to work for everybody. Like you need to try it on. Does it work for you? Well, then great. And I think for somebody that doesn't like to be told what to do, that really
Mm.
speaks to me because it puts me in the driver's seat of like owning my own experience and experimenting. And then lo and behold, I'm like, wow, some of this does work.
Mm.
It's not always easy though. I mean, it's not like I did it once. I'm like, oh, I found the solution. Like, no, 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 no. It's an ongoing practice.
I love how you took it out of my mouth. The idea of it being a practice means that you must practice it.
Yes.
That's what these tools are for. It's not about, okay, I'm feeling discomfort, I'm feeling anxious, I'm going to do the activity Landra said with the five senses, and I'm going to feel better. You might have some relief, some clarity, some calm, but it's not going to fix the feeling that you have. It's something that you have to continually practice.
And what I have found is it's stronger and better when I continually practice when I don't have discomfort.
Yes.
So when discomfort arises, I have a little bit more access to resources and feeling more resourced in myself to work with it. I don't get in such a big spiral.
In the South, we say we have to make hay while the sun shines. You got to do things while things are good to prepare when things are not so good.
Ah, I like this. I never heard of this before.
Yeah.
But that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, for example, like, when you are in a real anxious place, that's not the time to sit and meditate if you don't have a consistent practice. Because that's just going to probably be with your mind, is just going to really stoke a bunch of things even more, put you in a bigger spiral. And I think that's the biggest misconception people have. If you have been practicing along the way, when you get into that place, okay, you could probably sit a little bit more and start to build a little more capacity because you have worked in that place before.
It's so interesting. My priest in the US used to say, in moments of difficulty, it's not the moment to start a prayer practice.
Oh, wow.
Because,
Yeah.
like, you want to, okay, I'm going to pray really hard. I'm going to do, well, you get discouraged because prayer isn't easy. So if you do little by little by little, in the big moments where you feel like, oh, I really need it, you have the stamina, you have
Yeah.
the way to articulate. It's the same thing.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say now, I'm just more ideas and things are coming up, is like when you're uninspired to practice, looking for things to inspire you. So, for example, I don't feel like sitting today. I don't want to meditate. Well, who can I actually, and maybe prayer might be very similar, who can I be this practice be in service of? Somebody
Yes.
else who I know is going through a hard time. Somebody that I want to just send loving gratitude towards for some reason because I'm just missing them or just want to give them extra boost. making it more just about yourself is also a great way to build a routine and a habit. I find it gets me, okay, I could do this now.
That's really beautiful. I like that you mention making the practice about something other than yourself. Because sometimes in making this international move, I feel really selfish because I feel like, what kind of aunt am I to leave these kids and not be a part of their lives? Like, what kind of daughter am I to not be there with my parent? Like, just like, how selfish are you for just picking up and like doing whatever you want to do? But I remind myself that you can't pour from an empty cup. And I have to say, since moving to Greece, I feel like I've been able to intentionally fill my cup so that I can be a better daughter and be a better aunt, be a better friend, be a better sister in ways that I probably never imagined. I might not be right there with them, but I can still do it better because I'm in a better place.
I love that because, globalization, all of that, the world has been expanding from all different angles, technology, you name it. And in a way, that's a big choice to expand your life the way you have. And it, in a way, is like just a footprint of the way the world is working and globalization and getting bigger and expanding. And yet there's a way that we could still be connected.
Yeah, the big world is still small.
It's still small. So it's just interesting. Like I get this picture of you going out, but then coming in and still bringing people along the journey with you and inspiring them, even though you are farther away. When you come back, just thinking how much of an impact do you really have with them and make with them.
Thank you for that. I needed to hear that. As the world continues to change, and I was telling my colleagues the other day, I didn't have this on my bingo card for 2024. I didn't have the hurricane, didn't have the port strike, I didn't have Iran. Like, I just didn't foresee these things. There is a lot of uncertainty in the world. And sometimes the uncertainty out there comes in here. Whatever we're facing personally can be compounded by what's happening in the world. And it's a great reminder to, even in those moments, orient yourself to the here and the now. So if you too feel untethered, or you're feeling like you've got this aimless energy, you're not sure what to connect to, you're not sure what comes next, you don't know what the next phase looks like, being able to come back to the here and the now and building a practice that helps you navigate the uncertainty is going to be something that gives you lifelong rewards.
Our hope for you this week is that you face no moments of uncertainty. But if you do, we hope that you find comfort in practices that orient and ground you in the present moment.
Thanks to everyone for supporting us through this new venture. We could not do it without you. If you love what we're serving up, make sure to subscribe and rate on your favorite streaming platform. Also, head over to Instagram and give us a follow at Biscuits and Sunshine, all spelled out.
This is Biscuits and Sunshine with Callie and Landra.